federal government's
Get out of the way! Move! Otherwise, you're on the right.
Many of you have already raised concerns about the deployment of the National Guard in U.S. cities, the militarization of law enforcement, the abusive immigration crackdown, and other serious setbacks in the protection of fundamental rights. And on behalf of the city of Chicago, I want to acknowledge your statements and expressions of concern. Your vigilance matters because it signals to our communities that the world is watching and that international standards of dignity and justice apply to all nations, including my own. We are here because the federal government under the Trump administration has failed to meet even the most basic expectations of transparency and accountability before this council. And by refusing to submit its Universal Periodic Review Report and declining to appear for its review, this administration seeks to evade scrutiny for its violations of human rights, just as it has sought to evade accountability for its actions in cities like mine. This refusal to engage in good faith with international mechanisms for accountability and oversight is a moral failure. In Chicago, we live with the consequences of that moral failure every day. Families torn apart by immigration raids that have targeted daycare teachers, rideshare drivers, and restaurant cooks. Honest, hardworking, law-abiding people who contribute to the soul of Chicago, who literally make our city run. The federal government's immigration enforcement has been marked by violence and an assault on the dignity of all Chicagoans. Federal agents drag parents out of their vehicles in the pickup line for elementary schools. They throw neighbors supporting their neighbors to the ground and assault them. Right before Halloween, federal agents deployed tear gas on a children's neighborhood parade. This harm is not just concentrated on our immigrant communities, however. In Chicago's South Shore neighborhood, a proud, predominantly Black community, federal agents carried out what can only be described as a military-style raid designed for social media to be a spectacle for the world to witness. Helicopters circled overhead, doors were kicked in, homes were destroyed. Immigrant residents were detained in one van while Black families, including children, were held in another. On the west side, federal agents placed a Black Chicagoan in a chokehold and forced him to the ground, just steps from the doors of the West Side Center for Justice, a space meant to protect and uplift our people. Earlier this week, federal agents crashed into the vehicle of Diane Figueroa, a U.S. citizen who was on her way to get coffee before heading to work. The agents then took her into custody for no apparent reason. These are not isolated incidents. They are reminders that the fate of our communities, Black, brown, immigrant, is bound together. An attack on one of us is an attack on all of us. And in Chicago, we stand united to defend our shared dignity, our safety, and our freedom. I call on this council to hold the federal government of the United States to the same standards of accountability you apply elsewhere in the world. No country should be above international law. Human rights are universal, or they are meaningless. Chicago has long been a part of this struggle. From the 1950s, when the Civil Rights Congress brought the We Charge Genocide petition to this very body, to the young organizers who marched here decades later, demanding an end to police violence, to the courageous lawyers and survivors of the Chicago Police Department's torture scandal, who compelled the UN Committee Against Torture to call for justice and reparations. Our city's residents have long insisted that global human rights norms must be realized locally. We stand in that proud tradition today. And as I close, I invite the UN's independent experts to visit Chicago to witness both our challenges and our progress firsthand. And I urge the Human Rights Council to consider additional measures of accountability, including a special session to examine the worsening human rights crisis in the United States. The people of Chicago and of this nation deserve a government that honors their dignity, not one that diminishes it. Thank you for your time, your attention, and your continued solidarity in the global fight for human rights.